Hi, everyone. Welcome to our studio marketing masterclass. I am so excited for today. I don't know how many of you saw my posts on Facebook and Instagram last night, but I had this whole thing done before Thanksgiving. Like I'd written up all the slides and was totally prepared based on questions I'd seen in our Facebook group and like things that people had DM'd me over the last couple of weeks about this topic. And then I pulled up yesterday afternoon as we were like on our way home from our Thanksgiving travel. I pulled up all the questions that you guys submitted when you registered. And there were a lot of questions and they were all really good. So last night, I started this whole thing over and redid almost the entire presentation because I wanted to make sure that we were really addressing your questions and what you guys wanted to learn today. So I'm going to put like the disclaimer on today's session that we're going to cover a lot of ground. And some of these things that might feel like we move through kind of fast. As one example, there were some questions about SEO and website development that I was not planning on covering today originally, but they were really important questions. So we are going to touch on some of those things. It might not be the most in-depth conversation, but I am saving time at the end for some question and answer. So if we don't get to everything, I'm going to try to answer some of those then. And of course, there's plenty of ways to get a hold of me, and we'll talk about how I can support you after that too. But I really want to make sure that we get through as much as possible. So we're going to hit the ground running today and we're going to jump right in. If you're joining us, welcome. Thrilled that you're here. The first thing I'd love to do for everyone who is logging in and joining is kind of walk through an agenda. So again, this is a much longer list than I originally intended, but what we're going to talk about today is identifying our ideal student. We're going to focus on effective local marketing. We are going to cover some brief website and SEO information and kind of overview that quickly for you too to answer some of those questions, touch on that information. We're going to spend some time on attracting and converting on social media, which was a very, very in-demand topic. And I know like creating content on social media can feel a little scary. So we're also going to talk about how to make that less scary and how to make it feel more approachable. So I'm excited about that conversation. Definitely ready for questions on that too. At the end, we'll talk about some resources that we have available to you, and then we will try to save some time for Q&A. So please stick around to the end. Like, make sure you're jotting down questions throughout this. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. And if I can get to it in real time, I will. Otherwise, we'll save them for the end, and we'll certainly try to circle back as well. And the numbers are still going up. So as you guys are logging in, go ahead and just put in the chat really quickly so we can all just say hi. Tell me where you're located and then what instruments, genres, disciplines you provide instruction for. While you guys are doing that, if we don't know each other, if we haven't met quite yet, my name is Kelly Riordan. I am the CEO and co-founder of Outside the Box, which is an accelerator program for music studios and musicians looking to start their own private music lesson studio programming. My background is in clarinet performance and literature. So my main instrument is clarinet. I did teach piano for a while when I was in my undergraduate in grad school and shortly after, but it's been a minute. It's been a couple of years since I taught a piano lesson. So I'm clarinet through and through, mostly classically focused. And my students are typically high anxiety. I really enjoy working with students who are, oh no, chat is disabled. Thank you for telling me that, Josh. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Hold, please. Me. Remember how to do this. Ah, all right. Take two. Chat is now open. So go ahead and tell me where you're located and what you teach. Sorry about that, you guys. The Zoom settings on webinars are always a little funky. So anyway, my students are usually high anxiety. I love working with them through performance anxiety, through general anxiety. It's just a big passion point of mine to work on those things. So I really enjoy that type of ideal student. So obviously we'll talk about ideal student here in a second, but that's kind of my major background. And then as far as why the heck we're talking about marketing today, I found myself in a really weird position when I was an undergraduate and graduate school that I was paying for my music degrees and supporting myself financially by working in organic marketing. So working in like non-paid digital marketing campaigns. So I bring a lot of background from companies like Cadillac and American Express and Red Bull and Anheuser-Busch that I was running campaigns for at that time. So all the information that we share here, that we share Outside the Box, it's coming from that real world corporate marketing experience, plus running my own private studio. After my graduate program, I relocated back to Wisconsin and had a studio of about 43 students within 2.5 months after relocating. That was bringing in about 7,500 per month in gross revenue at that time. So that's just kind of a little bit about me while you guys are putting everything in the chat. Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh, you guys are all over the place. Amazing. Claire, Mariah, Adam, Zoe, Carrie, Josh, Christy, Rebecca. Oh my gosh. Hi, Lisa, Renee. Oh, it's fun to see our OTB crew in here too. Carol, gosh, yeah. Chris and Elsa, very cool. Oh my gosh. Community chorus. That is awesome. Wendy, Shell, Susan, Nada. Hey, Nada. Awesome. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for chiming in. And I know a couple of us put some things in the Q&A also. So obviously we'll go ahead and use the chat for the most part today. But throughout, this is open now. I have it all set up finally. Thanks again, Josh. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, we're going to jump right in. Ideal student. So the ideal student, and the reason this is so important, is the first thing I put on the list is it's going to impact every area of your business. So the ideal fit for the services that you provide and the students that you want to work with really can impact and affect what we're doing in our policies and how we're setting our rates and where we're marketing. So one quick example of this, if you want adult students, you're probably not going to be spending a lot of time in parent Facebook groups or marketing through school visits to elementary, middle school, and high school students. So we really want to make sure we understand what we're trying to accomplish and who we're trying to attract into our business so we can be really specific in our marketing efforts. I say this all the time on my social media. I know our OTB, outside the box crew that's here, knows this saying well, but every teacher has an ideal student and every student has an ideal teacher. It's really important that you know who you can serve best and who you support the best so that we can create long-term success, not only for us, not only so that we're just happier in how we're running our business, but also we want to make sure as teachers that our students are happy and that we've got a really good fit for them and that they're getting the most out of the time that we spend with them and the lesson tuition that they're paying for also. So we want to ensure it's a mutual fit. And we also want to make sure that we're, again, focusing our marketing on places where we're finding those best fits so that we have this not only short-term happiness and success in the students that we're adding, but also long-term success and growth in the studio and our goals. So what to look for in ideal students? I would recommend taking, if you have the ability to take a screenshot right now, screenshot this slide and sit down sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours and really think through who your ideal student is. And if you think that you've done this recently, it doesn't hurt to do it again. My ideal student has changed significantly in the last few years. And if you're thinking at this point, well, gosh, ideal student, at this point, I just want anyone that will pay me money, that will sign up for lessons and pay tuition. I totally understand where that thought process comes from. And what I would recommend is to start thinking about, again, what does make for most successful relationships, that when people do reach out to you, not only are you looking for those things, but we can also guide some of those things by setting shared expectations. So on this list, there's two definitions that I like to think of the ideal student. The first is who we can help the most. This can be based on short and long-term goals. This can be based on areas of study, like genres of interest, for example, or styles that our students are most excited to work on. For example, I am not a jazz clarinet player. I wish I was, but by the time I was interested at all in playing jazz, my anxiety and ego were too big, and I could not get myself to try improvisation. So it was too late for me, and maybe someday I'll come back to it. But I just know that if my students are interested in jazz, or if a student's coming to me and saying that's something they want to learn, it's not going to be in my wheelhouse. And I have wonderful colleagues who can take that student on instead and better serve them. So I'm not going to go ahead and move forward with them at that point. It's good to know those boundaries. It's also helpful to know learning styles. There are some things that you might just be really, really great at working through. I know, for example, some studios are wonderful at gamifying theory and music history knowledge. Some teachers, that's just not their cup of tea. So we want to make sure we're transparent about what we do and do not include in the experience we provide to our students. Teacher experience and background, of course, can be a big part of this too. If I have more experience working with students who have specific learning challenges, then I'm excited to do that and I feel more in control. For example, I've had many students who are dyslexic, and I've got a couple tricks up my sleeve that are helpful and resources and strategies for them to help make reading music and performing and playing a lot easier and more confident. There are other things like, candidly, I just don't have a lot of experience or really any experience working with a student who's nonverbal. However, I meet teachers all the time who have amazing background and skill set in that area. And of course, I would rather refer them out so the student has a better experience there. And then any accommodations that students need in their learning, that could be, again, learning style or challenges, that could be physical accommodations that we might be prepared to make or might not be prepared to make. So we want to make sure we're on the same page there. Things that we enjoy the most would be the second definition of ideal student. This is more student personality and habits. I'll have teachers tell me sometimes they really enjoy when a student has a good sense of humor, or maybe they make a lot of requests in the lessons for things that they want to learn and bring ideas and pieces to the teacher with ideas in mind. It can also be other characteristics like consistency. They show up on time every lesson. They're paying consistently. They're, easy to work with. They're not changing the schedule all the time, whatever those characteristics look like for your ideal student. Also, if you're a heavy performer and you've got a really wild schedule, you might also want students that are a little bit more flexible in their scheduling and aren't as consistent in coming every single week. We might want more flexibility and changes there. So again, it's totally personal as to what you want. Preferred environment and parent involvement are also a big part of that also. So if we're looking at, for example, a studio that offers group classes, maybe that student is someone who really wants one-on-one private instruction, and they're just not even going to consider group classes. So we might say that our ideal student is someone who's open to that kind of social learning and is excited about having a little bit more of that like positive peer pressure in a group learning environment. And parent involvement can be a big one, because if we're talking about anyone under the age of 18, or really anyone under the age of 22, we're dealing with parents typically for something, even if it's just for payment and scheduling. A lot of times we're still dealing with parents, and we want to make sure we've got a really solid, positive working relationship with parents. I don't think we're going to share a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, but I am going to share the recording with everyone that attends, Carol. So great question. After this session, once Zoom does its magic and processes and has it up and running, I'm going to go ahead and send the recording link to all of you so you can watch it back at any point. I don't anticipate that we'll share the slides specifically, but this will be available to you afterwards. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So moving on from there, multiple ideals. It is entirely possible that you will have more than one ideal student. And it's actually really common for us to see this. Again, I've had this conversation about ideal student with hundreds and hundreds of teachers over the last 3 years. It's very rare that there's only one ideal student a teacher wants to work with. So for example, we might have our weekly young students that are between the ages of 6 to 18 that are coming on a regular weekly basis. But I also might want to be working with adults that come during the daytime, and their schedule might have less consistency. So in this example, because adult students typically do have less consistency in their scheduling, they might also bring more specific goals for what they like to learn, or they're looking at shorter term support. And I might want to offer something different to them. So, again, for my ages 6 to 18, I might have a weekly lesson offer where students can attend their regularly scheduled lessons, a half an hour every single week, Wednesday at 4 p.m., for example. But for my adult students, I might need to get more creative. I might offer something like an a la carte lesson subscription, or even group lessons and more social classes. I had a teacher once that offered, what did he call it? It was essentially a wine club, like a piano wine club for adults that played casually, and they didn't really need lessons. They were just coming to play, get a little bit of live feedback, meet friends, and have some social time. And he had a really cutesy name for it, and I'm totally blanking right now. But those types of offers can be really great and really flexible for people who are looking for something different than just the weekly lesson. So make sure not only do you know who your ideal student or students are, but then know what offer fits them. So when you're doing your marketing and you're doing this outreach, you can really have that in mind and be targeted in the efforts that you're putting forth. Today, we're going to focus mostly on organic marketing. And when I say organic marketing, what I'm talking about is any marketing that is not paid. Establishing longer term marketing strategies, whether that's digital marketing, like having an SEO strategy, having blogging, creating content on social media, or more traditional marketing. And traditional marketing can be things like even you're paid. It could be newspaper ads. And traditional marketing that's unpaid, it could be things like lawn signs or hanging flyers in your local community, reaching out to schools and other businesses and local organizations. These longer term marketing strategies not only create more leads consistently over time, but they also create stronger brand awareness with a higher ROI. What the heck is ROI? ROI stands for return on investment. If you're looking at paid advertising, if I'm going to spend $100 on Facebook ads, I want to make sure I know how much money I'm going to get back out of that. So for every dollar I spend, if I get $2 back, then that ROI, for the most part, seems pretty fair. If for every dollar I spend, I get $1.05 back, maybe that's not working for me. Maybe there's more impactful and effective places that I can spend my energy, my money, and my time. So when we talk about organic marketing, especially unpaid uh, and free organic marketing, what we're looking at here is an opportunity for ROI where it doesn't even cost money. If we can be doing marketing for free, if we can be doing marketing just based on energy and time, we're establishing a really strong foundation and presence in our local community or presence online where people are finding us consistently ongoing without having to constantly be dumping money into it. Our goal in our session today, and the goal that I would lay out for all of you, is to generate interest and build the reputation of your business without paying for traffic, meaning without paying to send people to your website or to a landing page or to any sources of information about your business. Our ideal situation here is that it really doesn't cost us any money. I know I talked about my background being in organic marketing. This is, again, my area of expertise. But when I talk about avoiding paid marketing strategies, the other part of this is that my co founder and husband, Isaac, worked for a digital marketing agency for years before he came on board with Outside the Box full time. So we're bringing both of those aspects. And we had a long conversation about this last week when we were putting these slides together the first time. That, again, for most individual private lesson teachers, putting money into paid advertising is putting the cart before the horse. Make sure you have a solid structure in place for your organic leads so that people can find you through social media. They can find you organically in word of mouth in your local community. We're going to build that up and create referral partnerships. We'll talk about that today. But the goal of this is to make sure the process is refined and effective. You know you can convert leads, that your website is working, that your process for registration is working for long-term enrollment before you start putting money into any advertising. As most people that have been through Outside the Box, our clients in the last 3 years will tell you, you don't really need the paid marketing, especially if you're an individual studio. If you're looking at hiring other teachers and growing and scaling in that way, it starts to make more sense. But even then, we want to make sure we've got those foundations laid so that you're not sending people to a website that doesn't convert, or you're not paying to send people through a lead process that isn't actually registering students long term, and there's a high churn rate on that. Make sure the process is really solid before we put money behind it. Otherwise, it really, really can be just a guess, or even, I don't want to say a waste, that sounds so negative, but it can be a money pit. You can spend as much as you want in advertising, and that can be really harmful. What is ROI? ROI, again, is that return on investment. So how much am I getting back for what I'm putting in? That can be financial. Usually ROI is talked about in terms of paid advertising. Again, I spend $100 on Facebook ads and I get $200 back in customer registrations and signups. We can also think about ROI in terms of energy. If I'm putting an hour into a school visit, for example, and I'm going to go do some guest instruction at a school, if I can register at least one student from that, that might feel worthwhile for me. But if I'm going to spend 5 hours in a school and only get one student, maybe that starts to feel a little bit less worthwhile. So return on investment, just meaning what we're getting back for what we're putting in. Good question. Okay. The predictable sources of students that we want to look at can kind of be broken up into two different categories of actions. This glass of water, which I like to think about as things that we have to do over and over and over again. Energy we have to put forth over and over again. Money we have to put forth over and over again. Versus things like a well that we can dig once and draw from ongoing indefinitely. In the glass of water category, things like matchmaking agencies would fall into this category. There were a lot of questions submitted about lessons.com and Thumbtack and OutSchool. And there are a lot of these programs. I mean, there's so many more now. Forte is another one. When it comes to matchmaking agencies, it might not be a bad idea to diversify if you want some additional sources of leads. It's not the first place I would recommend because, again, you have no control over that lead source and they're taking a cut of all of your lesson revenue. So if I find a student through Thumbtack, for example, I'm paying money to talk to that lead. I don't know if that lead's going to convert. I don't know if they're even going to stay long term. So I'm paying money to talk to someone who's interested. And if that doesn't go anywhere, or again, if my website and my process and my enrollment process isn't working, that money is not going to be effectively spent. On a website like Take Lessons or OutSchool, they're taking a cut ongoing of the revenue that you're generating. So I think the rate for OutSchool is somewhere around 30%. I think Forte takes like a 20% charge on top of what you're charging for your lessons. So again, that's revenue lost when we can be doing Yeah, take lessons on lesson face. Yeah, Carrie. I mean, these all kind of operate the same. If you can do some of that organic marketing upfront yourself and spend no money and not give up a percentage, that is always my preference, because not only are you going to be bringing more money home, but it gives you complete autonomy and complete authority over the leads that you're generating. You're not relying on somebody else's well crafted ads to generate that income for you, because if their interest wanes or if their advertising strategies aren't effective, you're also not going to get the most out of that investment in that time either. Paid advertising definitely falls into this category. Anything like Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, putting up billboards, print ads, anything that you can think of, even advertisements in local performance bulletins and programs. Those are all paid advertising strategies that, again, as I talked about a moment ago, I would recommend holding off on. It's not where I would start. There were also a few questions about hiring agencies to run your paid advertising, and my answer would still remain the same. When it comes to an agency, you still have to have the whole process built out first. So make sure your organic marketing is flowing and working first. Now, if we're talking about scaling from there, I know my website works. I know my registration process works. Now it might make sense to start looking at some of those paid advertisements as I have the capacity. Again, usually that's multi-teacher studios and or course creators and things like that, where we're doing things at scale. The other thing about working with an agency is that the budget that most, and again, I'm coming at this knowing what Isaac was doing with a paid marketing agency for many years that was working with small and medium-sized businesses. The paid advertising budget that you might have as an individual studio owner is not going to be high enough to get the best attention and best support from an agency. The people who spend the most money with them get the most attention. Squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of a thing. Our budgets are going to be low as an individual business owner or even as a new studio owner, if you're running a multi-teacher studio. As a result, we're not getting the most attention out of that. It might not be the most efficient use of our time, energy, and money. So make sure that your organic marketing is working primarily. The one thing in this category that we are going to keep and obviously cover quite a bit today is social media. This can be Facebook groups, this can be Nextdoor, this just organic posting there. This can also be creating content on Instagram and TikTok, which we'll spend some good time on today. I put it in the glass of water category because we have to consistently post on repeat to get attention and traction on any social media platform. However, it is free to create content on social media. It's free to post in the Facebook group. It's free to post on Nextdoor. So as much as possible, using these free outlets is always going to be my preference. The well is mutually beneficial relationships with key people in your community. I want to make sure that school music programs and homeschool co-ops in my area know who I am and can refer to me, because we've built a relationship of trust. What I'm not doing is cold emailing them and just asking them for students. Same goes for anything like scout troops, church music programs and music directors, any other performing and visual arts organizations, think like theater groups and dance studios and art classes. I'm also wanting to contact other local musicians and private instructors. When I was teaching piano a long time ago, it's been a minute, but when I was teaching piano, I would have a lot of families come to me and say, our student now wants to go learn flute. Who do you recommend? Or in addition to piano, we have another child in the family, a sibling wants to start taking violin lessons. Where do we start? Who would you put us in contact with? Networking with other musicians in your area and other teachers in your area is so beneficial. But to take that one step further, we talked about ideal student, and I truly believe that between us private music instructors, there is no competition. As a clarinet instructor, I want to make sure I know all the other clarinet instructors in my local area, because I might run across a student that's not a fit for me, and or at this point in time, I just don't have time for my schedule. I want to know who to refer them out to, so they're ending up with a good fit, and we're ensuring that it's really, really the right place for them, and they're happy and they're comfortable with that teaching and with that teacher and with that environment. The best way for me to do that is to know who is in the area, even if I might initially view them as competition. So we want to make sure that we're really networking in the area. We're going to talk about this in just a second too, in the cold emailing. So I'll go ahead and jump right into that. So when we're doing this reliable marketing and we're building these mutually beneficial relationships in our communities, I kind of listed out this group again. There's two areas that we want to focus on the reliable marketing. So first is these mutually beneficial relationships. Second is digital marketing and social media content creation. The relationships in our community that we're reaching out to, again, this is a great list to jot down: school music programs, homeschool co-ops, scout troops, church music programs, any performing and visual arts organizations, local musicians, and private instructors. In our digital marketing and social media content creation, there are three areas that I really want to focus: my website presence and SEO strategy, which we'll again cover in a moment, our self-promotion in Facebook groups and Nextdoor, hyper local Facebook and Nextdoor, so that we're really posting in our local area, and then content creation on Instagram and on TikTok. These are the two areas that we're focusing. We're removing marketplaces, we're removing any of the paid advertising. To create effective local relationships, we need to offer for help rather than ask for help. I think the biggest misstep that I see almost every musician that I talk to making actively is that we'll send an email to a school music teacher, for example, and say, "My name is Kelly. I'm a clarinet instructor. Do you have any students that are looking for lessons?" And if we put ourselves in their shoes, they're very busy. So they lack the capacity to answer emails that are essentially just asking for more of their time and energy and not really helping them in any way. Of course, there's always the counter argument, well, if their students are taking lessons, it makes their job easier and their ensemble is better and it is helping them. Sure. But they also probably have a connection in their area that they're more comfortable with, that they're already referring to. That connection might be to a large music program and like a chain store, or a music school, a multi-teacher studio in the area. It also might be that they already know a clarinet teacher, and I'm a stranger on the internet sending an email and asking for students. There's no trust there. And in this day and age, we are rightfully cautious of just sending our children to anyone who sends us an email. That would be, I think, an overstep to expect that they're just going to willingly send kids our way. What we want to do instead is try to help them rather than just asking for that help. And most of this outreach goes unanswered because the content only serves us. So if I'm asking for help and not offering anything in return, that's just asking for their time and energy and their resources. They're not going to respond to me. What does get a response is offering help. And I would do this without any intention of asking for students. So your email copy should not at all say, "Do you have any students that are interested in lessons?" or "Here's my lesson flyer to send out." The email is, "How can I help you?" Let's be candid, y'all. It's been a weird few years. Like, we know the last 3 years for our school music teachers has been absurd. We can help them. They're overworked. They're underpaid. They're tired. They're teaching virtually and in person, and they're back and forth, and everyone's sick, and now COVID's back, and all these things are happening. How can we help them? Would a sectional or masterclass be helpful? Maybe. Would a session on practice techniques be really helpful to support their ensemble? Yeah, it might be. It also might be helpful to have someone just come in and do a session for their elementary music program where they don't have to lesson plan for the day. They can sit back and they can, catch up on grading, and they can just observe for that time instead, or even work with students who are maybe a little behind and need additional support. Anything we can do to support them is going to make a bigger impact. Now, keep in mind that not everyone's going to answer. Regardless of what we put in that email, you are not going to get 100% response rate. It's never going to happen. It's still cold email. And when we're talking about digital marketing strategy and cold email, a really good response rate on a cold email campaign is usually about 10%. So if we are sending emails to 50 schools, I might get 5 responses after I send follow-ups and make sure I'm staying in touch with them. It's not going to be the first email that's going to get a lot of responses. It's usually after some follow-up. And then from there, we're trying to book into a session or some kind of visit, some kind of guest instruction that I'm typically volunteering for, at least for the first time. Because again, I want to build an actual relationship. I'm not just looking for fast cash. I'm looking for friendship and kinship, and trying to find common ground with them so that we're genuinely getting to know that instructor, that band director, that teacher, that homeschool co-op leader. Especially when we're talking about organizations like scout troops and homeschool co-ops. These are volunteer-led positions and volunteer-led organizations. So when we're asking for their time and energy, the best way to build a relationship with them is to share their value of volunteerism and go teach the Girl Scout music badge as a volunteer. You're directly in front of students and parents. It's a great opportunity for marketing and getting to know them, but you're also making sure that you're presenting yourself in a way that is in line with the values of the people that you're reaching out to. Does that all make sense? If it doesn't, you can definitely put some questions in the chat box, obviously. I'm getting some thumbs up. Awesome. Good. I'm glad it's helpful. Thank you. I want to talk about websites too. So obviously keep typing in some questions. Again, if I don't get to them right now, I want to keep moving so we get through everything. I can definitely circle back in the Q&A section too. One of the big questions that I got, and again, I was not planning to cover this today, was do I need a website, or how do I get a website up, or how do I hire someone to make a website for me? Do you need a website? No, you don't need a website. Okay. However, it is increasingly an expectation for consumers that a business has a website and has a web presence. If we are looking at a restaurant that we might want to go to eat at, or a store that we might want to purchase from, we see businesses that have websites as being more legitimate and a little bit safer to interact with. And we also appreciate the ability to learn more about a business before reaching out, because not only do they have the website, but maybe they have a Google listing and we can see reviews, and it just builds more credibility for that business and better rapport with us before we even reach out. Also in 2023, almost 2024, it has never been easier to have a website. The design platforms that are on the market right now, they're constantly getting easier and easier to use, and there are very affordable options available. For example, if you have a studio management software subscription, I know my music staff, for example, includes a templated website as part of the subscription. So in your $15 a month or so that you're paying to my music staff, you also get a templated website that is up and running and very easy to use. You're just kind of plugging in your information. So that's a pretty straightforward and simple way to get something up and running. We also can look at programs like Squarespace. If at all possible, I would recommend building your website off of a platform like that, just because you have more SEO tools, you have more control over the website, and it's a little bit easier to get things set up if you're looking at a more professional marketing website where you can control all aspects of it. So my music staff is a great way to start. Duet Partner used to have templated websites. That's not live right now for new subscribers, but I would definitely be looking and moving off those platforms if at all possible. Our program, through Outside the Box, all of our clients get templated website access. So we use Squarespace to build all of our websites. Squarespace, I think their initial pricing, I want to say it's around like $16 a month to have access to that. Domains, like the actual web address, is very affordable. You can find them sometimes for like 5 cents for the first 2 years or something on GoDaddy. There are really affordable options out there. And then there are programs like ours that offer templated or website templates rather through programming, so that you can get something up and running on these really more advanced website builders. So you can have all the SEO and that access too. So there are a lot of easy ways and effective ways to get a website up. I know I kind of hinted at that. Oh, sorry, I'm seeing some questions. I have my performer website, but do I need to get a teacher website? Okay. When we're talking about websites, if at all possible, yes, I would recommend getting a website that is separate for teaching from performing. And part of that is because your performance colleagues don't really care about your teaching, and not in a negative way. It's just not what they're working with you for. That's not why you're getting hired for performance, is because of your teaching pedigree and background. In the same vein, the students that you're working with might care a little bit about your performance background and history, but what they really care about is what they're buying, which is the lesson experience and what that looks like. So if at all possible, I do like to separate them out. However, obviously for cost reasons and ease of design and hosting reasons, sometimes it can be more practical to have a combined website. So if you're trying to just start, have a website. Just get something up that covers everything you're doing. You can always separate them out later if need be. Another really important aspect of this is websites are a living document. So it does not need to be perfect. It just has to be. You can always update it later. You can always add more later. If you're getting a lot of requests for performing and you want to make sure that it's more accurately represented on your website, you can always throw that in and add it in later. You do not have to have the website in perfect 100% condition at the time of launch. If that's something that's holding you back from creating a website, is that like performer's paralysis of it has to be exactly right and it has to be performance ready before it goes on stage, just remind yourself that this is more of an organic process and it's more of a long-term process. Websites will be updated. They need to be updated over time. Just get something up and it can always be tweaked and refined later. That's not a big deal at all. When I say living document, anytime I make an update on my website, it's live within an hour. So I can make ongoing changes as much as I need to. And that's not a big stressful ordeal. Even if it's just like a wording change or a tweak to my bio, those things can be changed at any point. When we're talking about website design, also what I would highly, highly, highly recommend and making it as simple for yourself as possible. So again, there were questions about hiring an agency and working with website designers. Website design for a fully customized website is somewhere typically in the range of $500 to about $3,500. Obviously, if you're looking at more professional websites or bigger projects, or if you're looking at higher end designers, the price only increases from there. If we're talking about where to allocate our funds, that would not be the first place that I'm going to allocate it, because it just has to exist. It doesn't need to be the most beautiful piece of art on the planet. And also, it's going to need to be updated. So over time, if you can have a little bit more control over that on these platforms like Squarespace that are very easy to use, it is worth investing a little time and energy to learn how to make those updates yourself, so you're not shelling out $100 a month in maintenance fees to a website designer ongoing indefinitely. Things that are important for you to monitor on your website. We're going to talk about SEO in a second. It's not so much monitoring on the website. Obviously, we can look at analytics and see the conversion. If you're signed up for something like Google Analytics, you can look at how many people are visiting your website and then how many people are actually contacting you and where they're clicking and what that looks like, which is great. But again, that can feel complicated. Feel free to simplify this for yourself. Don't make it a big ordeal. A website should have information about you and your studio. It should have case studies or testimonials from students that have worked with you. And it should have some kind of background information on what your teaching philosophy is and what the experiences that you're trying to provide. Then it just needs a contact form, then it just needs a contact form. It does not have to be a big, long-winded website. You don't have to write big, long, gigantic copy. It doesn't have to look like a landing page where it scrolls and scrolls and scrolls forever. Simple is best. And it also means that people are directing to the places that you want them to pay attention to. I hope that answers your question, Elsie. What do I place on the student website when most of my students are minors? So we can sometimes, with written permission, include photos of your students. My strategy has always been to just include photos of myself. So there are a lot of pictures of my bright smiling face. I think I have 1 or 2 recital photos on my teaching website right now. And those were shared with express written permission from every family or every child that's in that photo. So when you're talking about, again, using minor likenesses, absolutely make sure that you have written permission for that. Okay, I had a lot of questions on what is SEO when we're talking about marketing. And I want to touch on this quickly, but SEO can be a really, really large topic. This is also one of those areas where if you wanted to make this your entire full-time job, there are professionals that spend 40 hours a week managing SEO for major companies' websites. So SEO can be another rabbit hole. It just has to exist in some way, and then we move on. So SEO, this is going to be a very, very brief overview. It's kind of like a crash course. SEO stands for search engine optimization, meaning it is the process of optimizing our website for search engines. Search engines would include things like Google, Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo. There's so many of these. Anywhere where you go to a site, type in a phrase or a question, and it gives you results back. Okay. The primary goal for all of these search engines and companies is to sell advertising. The secondary goal is to provide reliable results when you search. So what they're doing is they are trying to ensure that the websites they show as a result when you make a search on their site are accurate enough that you keep coming back and using them so they can collect data and sell that data and that ad space to advertisers. In order to provide accurate results, they crawl websites on a regular basis to better understand what content is on the website. When I say crawl, I mean they're essentially creating a bot. There's actually Google bot. Google bot will go through your website, analyze the website, and try to figure out what this website is about. So they're trying to figure out what is the content on the website, what topics does this website talk about, what location, if this is a business, what location is it, and who should we be trying to match this website with when we're talking about search results. In order for search engines to show our site as a result for relevant searches, we have to use keywords, which I'll talk about next too. I see a couple of questions. Most of my contacts find my website from Google, and then the contact page or email me suggestion Google ads, not Google ads. Again, we're not going to pay Google or any of those organizations for additional advertising space. It's just not worthwhile, to be honest. And when it comes to Google ads, a Google ad can show up in 2 different ways. It can be on the right-hand side as an image on your search page, showing you like kind of promoted images or promoted businesses and promoted listings. It also can be, if I search pizza near me, and there's a website that pops up and there's a little button next to it or a little box that says ad, that is a Google ad. I'm Basically, at that point, that pizza restaurant is paying money to get listed above everybody else in the search results. Those types of ads mean whoever is paying the highest amount gets listed first. So if you put $2 a day behind a Google ad versus a company like one of our chain multi-teacher studio companies, and I won't mention any names, but we've got several of these, they're going to always have a bigger ad space and ad budget for you. So, or than you rather. So they're always going to show up a little bit earlier. When we're talking about SEO, paying for advertising is not really a cheat code for SEO. I know sometimes people will bill it that way, but I would disagree. Again, if your SEO is really strong and your website, you know it converts and you've got a scalable offer, then it might start to make more sense. But in general, we're trying to do free things and like putting these keywords in key places on our website so the search engines can just find us. What are keywords? This was another really big question that I got submitted over the weekend. When we're searching on Google, what you type into the search bar is the key information, words, phrases that you want Google or any other search engine to find for you on other websites. If I search for piano lessons in Chicago, or potential student searches for piano lessons in Chicago, I might want my lesson website to show up for this. So I'm going to tell Google and whoever is searching that I provide piano lessons in Chicago by including that phrase in text on my website, in titles of pages on my website. So, like, there's the home page, there's contact. One of them might be piano lessons in Chicago. It's going to be in any image description. So, if I put a picture of myself, I might put piano teacher, piano lessons in Chicago in part of that image description. We really want to make sure that the things you want to be found for are readily accessible on your website. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm trying to put piano lessons in Chicago as all the text on my website. Obviously, put it organically into places on your website that make sense. In the copy, in your biography, in lesson information, don't overdo it. But that's how Google is actually figuring out what is on the website and matching people. I'm doing more composing. I think a separate website would be good for this industry. Right now, mine is all inclusive. Again, it can be as complicated as you want. So if you want 5 different websites for every single thing that you do, that's great. However, I would probably start with one to keep it simple. And then as you want to, branch out and develop things that might make more sense. If you have the time and the energy and the funding to host 5 websites and you feel like you can accurately, get SEO up and running and promote them efficiently, then sure, that might be a good strategy. If not, 1 or 2 is helpful. How do you add keywords to social media? Is it the text or hashtags or something different? We are going to talk about this. And this is part of why I ended up touching on social media and keywords a little bit more today. I'm going to keep rolling on that one for now, Wendy, but I'm going to circle back to that. Actually, I'm going to bring this over. Okay. I'm going to keep that one up and we'll try to come back to it a little bit later too. I do want to start talking about social media. I'm mindful of the clock. We had a lot of really good questions. I'm going to pick up the pace just slightly. Facebook and Nextdoor, when done in a supportive and respectful way, hyper local online marketing can be an efficient way to build name recognition in your area. When I say supportive and respectful, I mean we're not going into Facebook groups in our local area and we're not posting every single day. We're not spamming them or being overwhelming. An occasional post in a local Facebook group or an occasional post on your local Nextdoor site can be a helpful way to build that name recognition, whether it means that people are responding actively to your posts and reaching out directly in response to that and asking for lessons, or people just see you post every once in a while so they know you exist and they can refer other people to you in the future, which is also a very beneficial strategy. One example of this, we have a client in Sydney, Australia, who was posting in his local Facebook groups, not only about his lessons, but was just engaging, like being a normal human, a regular human in his Facebook groups in this area and commenting on people's posts and talking about restaurant recommendations and all that fun stuff. And he would also, on occasion, post a little video into the Facebook groups, in addition to some post copy about his studio and having openings. He might post a little snippet or a little face to camera, just saying what he was working on, what his students were doing, all that fun stuff. What ended up happening for his business was not that he was getting a ton of responses on those posts, but when somebody else would post and ask for recommendations for piano lessons in the Sydney area, other people from those groups were commenting and saying, "Oh, Sean posts here all the time. He's great. Sean's so nice. Sean's so helpful. You should definitely talk to Sean." And that type of goodwill in your area is how we build name recognition for ourselves, for our business, and our studio. We're not just going and being spammy and weird. When we do self-promotion, it also needs to feel student focused. So know why your ideal students choose to work with you. Know what it is that they enjoy about the environment you create and the results that they're getting, and highlight those things in the post rather than talking about ourselves. If I say I received my master's degree from University of Georgia, that's fantastic. But most parents, especially if they're non-musical, they don't know anything about the program at University of Georgia. They don't know, how strong the programming is at the Hugh Hodgson School of Music. They don't really understand necessarily even what a master's degree or a doctoral degree means for a musician or what that might entail. That information is helpful, but it's not their main decision-making factor. In talking with the parents in my studio over the last 10 years about what they really enjoy and what attracted them to the studio in the first place, it's always been personality and student results. So I felt like we vibed. I felt like we had a good conversation. It felt very inviting and safe for my student. But also, I knew it was going to be inviting and safe before I even talked to you because I'd read student testimonials or I'd watched student testimonial videos. I'd heard from the people in the community that you were wonderful to work with. That type of brand recognition in your area is really important. And billing and selling the experience more than our experience is really, really key here. Um, Question. Any advice for getting your first student when posting in Facebook groups or marketing my website? All I have is my degree and I don't have any student results to show yet. When you're looking at adding testimonials, but you don't have any students to ask for testimonials yet, go to your colleagues, any past professors, whether that was applied professors, whether that was ensemble professors and directors. You can also talk to individuals like colleagues that you've played with in chamber groups or ensembles in your area. Anything that can promote or describe what it's like to work with you as a human being, that you're professional, you're punctual, you're kind, you're, whatever you want to highlight to students, whatever other people think about you organically and authentically is what we want to highlight there. So if you don't have any students yet, put up other testimonials. You can always add to them or replace them later. Again, a website is a living document, so it can always get updated in the future. Good question. Okay, I do want to talk about creating content. And as we talk about content creation, I put this slide together last night after reading all of our questions that were like, content is scary, or I'm afraid of TikTok, or how do you even get started? It feels overwhelming. I have no idea what to create. And so I'm going to try to give us a little crash course today in content creation. But I want to reemphasize again, students choose to work with you because they enjoy the experience that you provide. This is something that we talk a lot about in our programming and outside the box. In our solo program, which closes in 2 days, actually, all the registration and enrollment for that is closing temporarily in 2 days. We've had a lot of conversations around this on recent meetup calls where we're talking about the fact that we're not just trying to highlight, again, our background and experience, especially when we're emailing school band directors. Like, yes, they value more about like more information about where you went to school and your resume. And some teachers might even ask for that on occasion. So it's not ever a bad idea to have that updated. But what they really care about is the experience that you provide to students. So having a website with those testimonials is still more impactful than just having a resume or a CV to send over because we want proof. And we can't provide proof about how wonderful we are. It's not as believable as having proof from other people. So when potential students and parents are exploring lesson options, they really want to see that experience and understand the impact that it has on your students. And the reason I love creating content on social media, and I think it's just so exciting and impactful, is it's an incredible way to demonstrate firsthand that experience and showcase results, even more than what we can do with traditional marketing. I can put a testimonial on a flyer and hang it up in a Starbucks, or I could put a review or a testimonial on a lawn sign and stick it in a bunch of places all over the town. But that's one testimonial, and it's still something that's written down and people are reading and hopefully remembering and processing and reading in the right tone. I can demonstrate so much more on social media because people can get a firsthand view into what it's like to actually be my student or be my client and work with me. Now, I put a disclaimer on the bottom of this. As we talk about content creation, I know that everybody's at a very different stage in their development here. You may know some of this already, and that's great. You may also, as we're talking about this, not understand all of it. If you've never created content on social media or made a video on Instagram or TikTok or anything, it might be a little overwhelming. That is fine. It's completely normal. And honestly, I'm going to set the expectation that it is to be expected. Creating content is like creating new music. It takes time and repetition. It's a huge creative outlet. So it takes a lot of repetition for the work to start to really shine. So just know that we're all starting from a different place, and that's okay. What is content creation? Creating content on social media is just creating posts. So when we talk about content, that can be written posts, that can be image posts, that can be video posts. But the best performing posts right now in 2023, heading into 2024 on any social media platform are media based posts, meaning they include videos and photos. We like these posts when we're scrolling through social media, not only because they're more engaging and memorable, but they also feel more real and authentic. It's not something that someone wrote and then edited again and then edited and edited and like refined and perfected before they hit the post button. You're seeing someone in real time, their personality and how they interact with people and how kind they are and supportive and encouraging. And that gives you a clear view and window into who they are and what it's like to work with them before you ever reach out. So when we're creating content, the best piece of advice that I can give to a musician who's trying to start or any business owner is to mitigate that initial feeling of overwhelm by creating content that represents the work that you're doing by documenting the work that you're already doing. If you're teaching lessons, set up a camera and record yourself. If you're practicing or performing, set up a camera and record yourself. Take pictures at events. We'll talk about this more in a second, but one big kind of disclaimer on this, if you're going to share somebody else's likeness on social media, especially a student, especially a minor, make sure you have written permission to include that image or that video in any marketing and social media content always. Okay. Ideas for content at studio events like recitals, group classes, studio rehearsals, anything that you're hosting for the studio, take photos and videos and share those on social media, again, with permission. Recordings of recitals can be super helpful, especially if you've got students who are working on kind of capstone pieces and projects, or even a student who's brand new. I've had students in recitals that have only taken 4 lessons from me, but we're going to play something because I want them to have that win, and we can still celebrate it on social media, and it feels amazing. Sample lesson snippets can also be really helpful. Again, recorded and posted with permission. You can also set up the camera, as I do frequently in my lessons, and a lot of you guys will see this on my TikTok especially, so that it's only focusing on me. I don't like to put my students on my social media and share their image, but you will see little snippets of me talking to them. You might not always even hear the student, but sometimes you're just hearing my responses and how we're phrasing things. Little snippets like that, again, give a clear window into what it's like to be in a lesson with me and be my student. Education and quick tips is probably my favorite type of content to personally create for my own social media channels. I love sharing educational material like this, but it can also be things like performance demonstration or recordings of your own practice process and what that looks like and encouragement there. You can also do tours of your studio, announcements that are happening, day in the life of a music teacher, whatever you want to put out there. But this is just kind of a first go at a sample list of things that you can create and share. I want to quickly give you a little insight into educational videos, because while they are my favorite, I think for most people, they're also the hardest to create because talking to the camera can feel a little bit more scary. I do like to write out at least bullet pointed notes for myself before I create an educational video. So I'm not just like rambling on or there's no point to the video. I've done that in the past and it just never goes as well for me on social media. So I've learned that having a structure helps. The things that you want to include in the educational video on social media are a hook, just a quick something like a phrase on the screen or a phrase that you're saying that'll grab interest and stop people from scrolling by the post. So they actually watch the rest of it, or try to do that in the first 4 seconds at the most, ideally. Some kind of proof, like why are you qualified to teach or discuss the topic? I'm a clarinet player. I have a master's degree in clarinet performance. That's why I'm qualified to talk about synthetic reeds and make recommendations. Expectations, like your agenda for the content. If you watch the whole video, here's what you're going to get out of it today. We did this at the beginning of our session. Here's the agenda. Here's the plan. So you know what the heck we're doing and it's not feeling like a waste of your time or you have no idea where we're going next. And then the body, any of the information and that content that you want to share and things that they need to know. And then finally, a call to action, which would be the next step. If they found this helpful, there's a link in your bio they should click. If they found this helpful, you offer a consultation for lessons. If they found this helpful, they can go download something off of your website, whatever that is. Here's an example from a video that I posted about a week to a week and a half ago that currently has about 80 to 85,000 views on Instagram. So again, this is a great example of education. You can actually find this by going to my Instagram page and going to my Reels tab. It's pinned at the top, so you can see this. The hook was, I'm going to tell you exactly how to find private music lesson students so that you can create a full-time sustainable income in music. The proof was, my name was Kelly. Within 5 months of finishing my master's degree in classical clarinet performance, I'd relocated and built a brand new studio to $7,500 a month in revenue. Since the shutdown 3 years ago, I've helped at least 663 musicians to create stable income by teaching music lessons full-time. I did not talk this fast in the video. Expectations that I set were, I'm going to give you 3 things that you need in order to do the same, because it's hard to establish a career in music. We've all experienced that post-music school panic. There's no clear next step. This means most musicians end up either piecing together complicated and unpredictable careers through teaching and gigging, or finding work outside the music industry. My call to action actually came next. So I flipped those 2 around, which sometimes I do. It's a totally matter where it is. My call to action was, if you're exploring the possibility of income through music lessons, save this. You will absolutely want to come back to it. That video has over 3,000 saves on it. So people definitely did that. They absolutely listened to what you recommend. And then the content. So I said there are 3 things you need in order to create a sustainable revenue in your own private music lesson business. And I talked about those 3 things. Again, you can go watch the whole video if you're interested. This type of educational content is something that I would plan out and write more of a script for, so you can get into more detail. When we talked about the SEO for content, this is where a lot of that is happening. Instagram and TikTok can read the words from your captions. So when you add captions natively in the app, meaning when I'm editing a video in Instagram and I hit add captions, it's analyzing what I'm saying, and it can actually use that to determine what the video is about. That's number 1. I'm also putting text on the screen. So I'm putting like little text boxes saying how to find private music lesson students, how to have a career in music. And that's also helping to tell the system what I'm actually talking about. And then you also have your caption, where you can type even more information, expand a little bit more, add more detail, especially if it's a short video and you want to expand more. You can use hashtags, but Instagram and TikTok have both been pretty public recently about the fact that hashtags are helpful, but they would rather see the information you're including in other places, in your captions, in the text on screen, and in the caption, like the physical caption that you're actually typing out on that post. And the reason for that is because you can put a hashtag on anything that is not actually relevant to what you're talking about. They want to make sure that they're matching things appropriately. So if I hashtag cute dog on a video of me talking about clarinet lessons, that's not helpful, and it's going to show it to the wrong people. Okay, the algorithm was the thing I got a lot of big questions about too. So briefly, what is the algorithm? Every social media platform is coded to include a set of rules that determines what content you see on your homepage. These rules are meant to identify content that each individual person or account will find interesting by tracking what you engage with. The things I get on my social media, if you open up my TikTok account right now, it's going to be a lot of music content, go figure, a lot of content about creating content on social media, because I really enjoy that, a lot of business education and content, because I enjoy that too, an absurd amount of dog videos, because I'm obsessed with my own puppy. So you're going to see a lot of that on my page. And then I am getting a lot of Taylor Swift content right now, because I do like Taylor Swift. So there's a lot of that content that goes around. Sometimes I get like clothing or some makeup, and I don't really engage with a lot of those things. So I tend to scroll by them. So I don't get as many. Everyone's feed is going to look differently based on the things that you like, that you save, that you comment on, that you watch in their entirety or watch on repeat, accounts that you follow. That's how it's determining everything. The rules are also designed to track engagement from all viewers and then promote high interest content, meaning if the content is successful and a lot of people initially like shows it to the first 200 people, and of those 200 people, 25 people like it or save it, it will keep showing it to more people with similar interests. This isn't designed to work against you. It's meant to support your account so that when you're scrolling, you're only seeing the high interest content that you enjoy also. I know a lot of times we talk about the algorithm as being like this big bad thing that you were trying to beat the algorithm or hack the algorithm. It is there to support you and make sure that the right people are finding your content. So it's going to take some experimentation to figure out, what do you enjoy creating most in content, and what do people want to see the most from you? Okay, I know we're running a little short on time. I hope that you are all okay if I keep going. I have a little extra time and I want to cover the rest of this content. So, of course, if you have to hop off, I totally understand. Please feel free to watch the recording. I will send it to you. You can hop in on the recording about at the hour mark, of course. But we're going to keep going because I'm excited about this stuff. Ilse, do you use references for your captions and texts, or do you just go with what you want it to be about? Can you clarify that question for me? Are you asking references and like if I make a scientific claim, for example, I happen to know that Ilse has a scientific background. So I'm wondering if by references you're meaning like giving credit to a source or if you're implying something else. And I would love clarification there. What is the best way to cut recordings into little snippets? Every social media platform would prefer that you edit in app, meaning if I'm going to post on Instagram, editing the video in Instagram. If I'm posting on TikTok, I'm editing the video in TikTok. That's why that there's watermarks. Whatever you do, do not download a video from TikTok and then co-post it on Instagram with the TikTok watermark and vice versa. The algorithm does not like that. They want you creating things natively in the app if at all possible. You can use third-party apps. We use programs like CapCut, CAPCUT, the free version. Do not pay for CapCut, just get the free version. That's the one that everyone uses and it's far superior to any of the rip-off paid ones. That's free in the App Store, but you can use CapCut to edit. You can also use any other video editing software. You can use iMovie. You could use Premiere Pro. Typically, we use Premiere Pro and CapCut the most, in addition to then editing in app. Okay, I'll say, for example, asking ChatGPT, give me the best keywords for piano teacher, etc. Okay. ChatGPT operates off of old data. It's not always going to be up to date. And this is something they've been pretty public about in recent months, is that they're going backwards into results. That doesn't mean it's inaccurate or it's not a helpful resource. But what I would do instead is go into TikTok and type in piano lessons or piano teacher, whatever you're trying to create content about, and see which videos and what kinds of keywords are getting the most views. And I'm not saying copy somebody else's content. Never do something that somebody else has done like word for word and try to recreate that. But you can use it as inspiration. There's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down on finding keywords in social media. And today we don't have any more time for that. We might try to cover more in the Q&A if we still have a little time left over. But in general, what I would recommend is look at the kind of content that people are enjoying and viewing the most, and then use that as inspiration to influence the kind of content that you're creating. Awesome. Okay. Converting from Instagram and TikTok. On your page on Instagram or TikTok, on your profile, there's a bio section included in your profile. That bio section is the header, like the little short snippet of information about you. And that should include all of your studio information and contact details, plus a call to action or next. Instagram allows any profile to include a link in their bio to have a clickable link on TikTok, meaning not just you type it in, but an actual clickable link. You do have to have 1,000 follower minimum. To start posting content, you can always add it later. The bio link should either be to set up a consultation for lessons or to link to your website with clear steps to book a consultation. But you have to tell people what to do next. If you like my content, here's how you can find more information about me. You can see an example of this, of course, on my social media. Feel free to use that as inspiration. Make sure it's not like word for word when you see a content or a bio that you like. Make sure it's obviously about you and supporting you, but you might want to highlight, I have an MM from UGA in clarinet performance. And on my website, you're going to find like, sometimes people do like a little emoji and, free consultation or complimentary lesson consultation, or work with me, take lessons with me, and a little arrow or something down to their bio is a good one. During that consultation, we want to make sure that we're converting at a high rate. So I've talked about consultations in other webinars and other master classes before, but essentially we're looking to host something over Zoom. I like to do a consultation over a trial lesson because it's more flexible. We're not scheduling in a lesson time. It can even be during the daytime hours outside of lessons. It allows for a more thorough interview. I can ask questions about that student and ensure that they are an ideal fit for my studio and for my teaching style, make sure our goals and expectations are aligned, discuss policy face-to-face, and then chat about next steps. If you're trying to decide between offering a complimentary consultation or a free trial lesson, if you don't have a lot of testimonials, as we had talked about earlier, a free trial lesson is a great way to give a student a little taste, a little sample of what it's like to work with you in place of having more of those testimonials. If you have testimonials and client reviews, don't teach for free. Have a consultation, and you can always offer something like a paid trial month instead. I know we're kind of coming in blazing here at the end, and I want to get to our Q&A because I know you guys have more questions. So what I want to just kind of quickly point out on the screen right now is that we are offering a private strategy session. This is a one-on-one hour-long call with me to outline your goals, answer any follow-up questions that you have from today's session or any other content that I've put out, finalize your pricing and policies, and you'll receive a custom action plan. I only have 6 of these before the end of 2023, but I actually, when I made the slide last night, I had 6. And then this morning, someone actually went into the website and booked one. So I have 5. I have 5 sessions left before the end of 2023 that are available. So you can scan this QR code. It'll take you to a page with a lot more information about what we actually do in that strategy session and information on how to book that. So if you feel like you have questions or if you want to dive into more of these things in more detail, I would obviously love to meet you with you and work with you. And this is the way to get a little bit more help. I'm going to keep that QR code here in the bottom corner for our Q&A too, obviously, if you need to reference that. Okay, we covered a lot of ground, you guys. Holy moly, there's still 33 of us on, so I'd love to answer some questions. The chat is open or the Q&A box is open, whatever you prefer. Go ahead and circle back anything that we've talked about today, anything we feel like we haven't covered. I've got about 10 minutes, and I would love to answer anything that you guys are curious about or want to learn more about at this time. They'll say all the information was very helpful. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. I know like I said, we did cover a lot today and it was moving pretty fast, but I'm really, really glad it was helpful. And again, I'm happy to answer anything. Thank you for such a great webinar. Happy holidays. Yeah, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving, everyone that was celebrating. Wendy, did I answer? I'm not sure if you're still on, but you are awesome. Did I answer your question thoroughly about keywords on social media and where to add them? And if not, please let me know and I'm happy to dive into that a little bit more too. Sandra, thanks. So I have to run. We'll listen to recording. All good. All good. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Awesome. Totally agree with giving to communities and offering to help music teachers. How do you decide when to ask for help back? Great question. So I'm going into these schools and I'm teaching for free and I'm volunteering to build a relationship. How do I actually then convert that into students? The short answer is when you're in that classroom, I'm not there to make a sales pitch. I'm not there to like tell students that you can work with me and you can you can take lessons with me, and like I'm not trying to pitch that. I'm not handing out flyers and business cards directly to students because to be honest, they're going to end up balled up in the bottom of a case or a backpack and never to be seen until June of 2024 when they're totally disintegrated and no longer functional. But when we're talking about lessons and approaching that, there's a couple things we can do. One, when I'm teaching, I want to make little, like let's say I'm in a sectional, for example, make comments and use examples from the students that I actually work with. So one example might be I'm talking about embouchure with a student, I might say, oh, an exercise that my private lesson students find to be helpful is XYZ. And that way I'm hinting like I do teach private lesson students, I'm helping students to see that, but also the student isn't the one that's making the decision on that. So I don't want to just focus on like pitching or selling to the student. Also, when it comes to sales in general and asking for help and asking for these references, my theory is always I sell the way I would want to be sold to, which is not like heavy on the pitch. It's not heavy on like, here's how to work with me. I'm going to email you 47 times. You're going to be on my email list. I'm going to bug the crap out of you. I'm not going to be like pushing everybody to work with me or follow up with them all the time. That's not how I enjoy being talked to. So when I'm in those school systems, what I'm doing is making those hints like, yeah, you can work with me. There's plenty of opportunities. I've done this today plenty of times. Like we have a solo program, we have clients in OTB, we have a private studio session. That's not the point of today though. So that's not what we're focusing on. That's not why we're here. And I want to do the same thing in my school visits. The other thing that I would do then is on the follow-up, ask if a teacher can send any information that you want, like a flyer or any kind of resources and things that you use with students that have your contact information on them. Once you have that relationship, ideally we have the conversation face to face with them first though. Like we are in that school classroom and we've done the visit successfully. And at the end, I might say, gosh, I loved working with your clarinet students today. They were spectacular. Out of curiosity, I have a handful of openings in my lesson studio. Are there any students that you think might be interested in lessons or that have been curious in the past? Because I'd love to help and support wherever I can. My other question always is going to be also, do you want me to come back? Like I'd love to visit again. And if they're looking for more ongoing help, like I do solo ensemble coaching for a lot of studios or schools in the area, or I'll do more regular sectionals on occasion. Those at that point are paid. My initial visit, maybe two are volunteer for the course of a school year. If they want me on a regular basis, then I'm coming for payment. Okay. I hope that answers everything, Zoe, but if it doesn't, obviously, please ask a follow-up question. Wendy, totally agree with you about, sorry, how to agree your ROI, how to track your ROI and your SEO, given that SEO takes time to build and take effect. The reason SEO takes time to take effect is because Google is usually only visiting your website about every 6 to 8 weeks. And what they're doing is they're looking at a checklist. And some of that checklist is, do you have the information in the places that we're looking for it? Some of that information is there new information that we didn't see before? And some of it is length of time. Like they're also looking at how long your website has been up to create more authority there. It does take time, which is why I would not build a lot of time and energy here. And as far as ROI goes, all you're really going to be able to see on ROI for SEO is your Google Analytics, how many people are actually finding you through Google search results. You can send traffic to your website in so many other ways. And we were actually talking about this weekend, Isaac and I. We have several hundred visitors to our website on a monthly basis at this point. Most of them are still coming, even though we've got blog posts, and obviously I have a resident SEO expert, so we have SEO really sorted out on our website, and things are in really good shape. I'm still getting most of the traffic through social media because I have bigger reach there. People might not be searching directly for the things that I'm offering on a regular basis, but they are on social media watching that content, and it's being shown to them in a more organic way. So a lot of our content comes from click through on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. I'm happy with that. I like that traffic source. So it's important to diversify a little bit more so that I'm not just getting those visits off of Google, if that makes more sense. I'm hoping that's answering your question, Wendy. As far as ROI tracking, though, again, it's an energy investment. You could spend 40 hours a week every single week writing blogs and trying to publish, 25 blog posts a month. However, I would just make sure that when you're establishing your SEO, you've got your page titles and your headers and your image descriptions and your content hinting and talking about the things that you want people to find you for. And then if you're occasionally inspired to write a blog post, amazing, but it does not need to become your entire personality in all of your work in order to have effective SEO results. I'm going to do tutoring. How can I find my first student online or offline? I would start with school visits. That's a fantastic way to make sure that you're getting in the door and meeting people. I think it's really, really advantageous to be focusing on that kind of networking. The way that I got my first students, I was actually all of 16 years old when I had my first 5 students. And I volunteered with our beginning band camp for the school district that I was attending. And I just went in again as a volunteer for free. I was just a kid and worked with their brand new little baby clarinet players. And in the course of that week, I got to know a few. There were a few that I really enjoyed working with and that showed some promise. And at the end of it, this was, I mean, gutsy, of course, but after the little performance at the end, I walked straight up to their parents and said, "Hi, my name is Kelly. I really enjoyed working with your son or daughter this week. And they have done fantastic. They've really taken off so quickly and they seem to really enjoy it. Is there any chance you've considered private music lessons? Because I would love to work with them if that's something you're interested in." And then I gave them my card, did a trial lesson, and that's how I signed them up. So going into schools and working with people organically in that way is a great way to find those initial students. It's going to be a little bit harder on like a TikTok or Instagram to find students initially. So I would start with some of that more like hyper local organic outreach. Also telling any of your professors or any teachers that you're working with right now that you're looking for students is a great way to get referrals too. I hope that helps. What social media platform is best to make parents of young students aware of my studio? I would think Facebook, but not really sure. 30 to 40-year-old parents on Instagram and or TikTok. TikTok and Instagram, it's interesting. TikTok is aging up every single day. What I mean by that is people our age and even our parents are now joining TikTok on a fairly regular basis. And part of that's because it's a very in-demand app and there's a lot of information there. Part of that is because TikTok is launching big social media and television ad campaigns to make people aware of TikTok and what's happening. And they're really trying to market towards those older generations. So a lot of our people are on TikTok. A lot of our parents are on TikTok. I would say between the two of them, if you're creating video content, just post it on both. It's definitely worthwhile to take the extra 5 minutes to organically put captions on a video in TikTok and then also put the same captions natively in Instagram and post in both places if you already have the video done. I would say as far as our traffic goes, and again, all of our clients are going to be, if someone's signing up for Outside the Box, they are definitely postgraduate. So these are anyone, ages typically 25 to 55 is kind of, I would say, the most typical age range, although we certainly have outliers. They're finding us through social media, and a lot of those are through Instagram and TikTok. So I couldn't give you an exact number right off the top of my head on where our clients are coming from, but I will say that the studios that we work with that are on TikTok and Instagram get more traffic and views off of TikTok. I think like the virality aspect of TikTok is a little bit better. So we do tend to get a little bit more reach on TikTok over Instagram. One other quick thought too is Facebook is great, but a Facebook business page is meant to get you to pay for ads more than an Instagram or a TikTok page is. So if you're going to look at investing in like what social media platform to spend more time on, I would say Instagram and TikTok over Facebook in that regard. Facebook groups and Nextdoor, which are not coming from a business page. It's not like content creation in the same way. It's just kind of organic promotion on occasion. That's an easy one to do from a profile on Facebook. Doesn't take a lot of time and it doesn't require as much creativity, if you will, on some of those too. So if you're looking at content creation, I would definitely stick with Instagram and TikTok. I hope that's helpful, Adam. Obviously, please feel free to ask follow-up questions. A lady in other industries said that hashtags not used as much anymore, but about the teaching industry. I know we kind of touched on this earlier. Hashtags are just not what Instagram and TikTok or even Facebook are looking for as much now. So it's really, really important that you are making sure the keywords that you want to be found for or the topics that you want people to see and find in your video content is available in the captions, in the words that you're saying, in the written captions on that post, and in any words or text on the screen that you're adding to a video over a hashtag. You can still add hashtags in the algorithm, in the rules that those social media platforms have set up. Hashtags are just not as important anymore. It used to be that that was how you told Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok what the post was about. That's not as heavily weighted in the rules and in the system anymore. By the way, I'm not making that up. That's something that Instagram and TikTok are actively coming out and saying, like on the creator portal on TikTok. These are things that TikTok is openly saying to all creators. This is something that I get sent emails about from TikTok. It's something that Instagram on their creator profiles or on their official pages are talking about too. They're telling larger influencers this information is readily available. I'm not like pulling that out of nowhere, I promise. Maybe we could offer free services to our local communities for holiday music, team up with local singers and do live music. I mean, look, when we talk about exposure, I'm always anti playing and teaching for free. However, there is some goodwill that can happen around this and can build, definitely can build a studio. But what I would recommend is if you're going to go in and do something for free and it's going to be for exposure, make sure you're actually giving people a call to action for the exposure. Like, don't just play for free and then hope they find you again. Like, put out flyers, put out a sign with a QR code so people can come and find you and get to your website and take lessons with you. Tell them that you teach lessons. Like, put something on there. One of our clients out in California has been doing performances and playing at an airport. And when she goes to the airport, she's mall and other places too, but I think the airport's kind of her main ideal performance space. She puts up a sign that says, "Come get a 5-minute free lesson." And anyone can walk up to her during their layover or during their time waiting in the airport, and she'll teach them something on piano. And that's a really, really fun kind of opportunity. It's very engaging. So things like that, where you're being really clear about the fact that you do teach, is more impactful than like just playing just to play. If that's what you're going to do and you want that exposure, make sure there's a call to action and a next step. Just like content creation, I put out so much information for free on social media, but there's a very clear next step and call to action on how to work with me. I will say in posts, our solo membership program, which is the easiest and cheapest way to work with us, is closing in 2 days. I'm putting that in my post and I'm putting that in my bio and everything, so people are getting that information so that they can move forward with that. I'm not just posting just to post with no additional follow-up, if that makes sense. Pro tip, Boy Scouts offers music merit badge and entrepreneurship merit badges, and troops are often looking for something to do during meetings. Merit badge requirements are found online. Yes, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts both have music badges that you can offer. I think at the Girl Scout level, it's juniors, which is like 3rd through 5th or 3rd through 6th grade. I'm blanking right now. I do a lot of volunteering with Girl Scouts. I help run a day camp 1 week every summer. It's a completely volunteer-led day camp, and I'm one of the directors. They are great organizations to work with. I just love, I mean, I was a Girl Scout, so I love Girl Scouts, but also there are really, really great specific things that you can offer to them. So getting in contact with council, getting in contact with schools and trying to find out who those volunteers are so that you can volunteer your time is really helpful. Keep in mind, sometimes when you're volunteering with organizations like this, they will ask for a background check. So just be prepared that that question might come up, which is a completely fair request, of course. I have a music studio outside the city where I live. How do I use Nextdoor for my studio neighborhood? Okay, great question, Christy. Nextdoor is based on your physical address. So you could try, I don't know that I would recommend this, but you could try signing up your Nextdoor account and registering it for your studio address. You also can set up a free business page on Nextdoor, which, just like Facebook, because of the same company, they're both owned by Meta, is designed to get you to pay for advertising. So kind of mixed feelings on that one too. If you can't post on Nextdoor otherwise without having that free business page because it's tied to a different address and it's not local, then I think it's definitely worthwhile. If your studio is within 10 to 15-minute drive, just post in your local area on your personal page too. That's not a big deal. Is it difficult to get into schools with COVID history and added security? It was harder a year and a half ago. It is not as difficult now, which is great. If something comes up or schools are concerned about having you in person, I've also had clients do pre-recorded classes or do virtual sectionals and things as well. So that's certainly a possibility. Not as much of a concern right now, though. I'll be honest, I think that's a wonderful change that we've seen for the 2023-2024 school year. Any solid advice on web-based remote instruction? Do you offer this? Also pre-recorded lesson material. Chris, wonderful question. This is something I don't think we're going to quite get into today, and I have to hop off in a second because I have another session after this. But when we're talking about remote lessons, yes, this is something that I offer. Yes, this is something that I have worked with a lot of studios on. And what I would recommend if you're looking for more specific examples on pre-recorded lesson material, video exchange lessons, asynchronous lessons, if you go to our website and go to case studies, there's a couple of videos that I think would be really impactful for you. The first is Becky. Becky has an asynchronous studio. She also does group lessons online, plus online private lessons, with majority of her revenues through asynchronous instruction and group lessons. That'd be a really good example. And she talks a lot about how she built out that material. And I think that'd be helpful. The other one that I would recommend if you're looking at remote, like online instruction, there's an interview with Omero, Homero, Omero, and he is based in Mexico, but he had done all of his studies in the US. And so he had students online that he wanted to work with. And then he wanted to be mainly working with other instructors other students in the US. So all of his marketing was done virtually and remotely to add those online students. Yes, that's on our website. I think that'd be super helpful for you to review. So if you go to outsidethebox.com, BACHS, I can put this in the chat. There you go. And then go to case studies. Those are both listed there for you to watch back as well. Okay. Awesome. Okay. I have to hop off. If you have additional questions, if we didn't get to anything today, if there's other things that you're thinking about or worried about or wondering about, if you want a personalized action plan and next steps, I highly, highly, highly recommend these private strategy sessions. I know I only have a few remaining for the year. I don't know what availability is going to look like for these in 2024 at the beginning of the year. So make sure you get this booked before they run out. I would love to work with you guys and answer your questions. So please feel free to stay in contact. Another great way to get your questions answered is always to comment or message me on social media. I'm very active, obviously, on TikTok and Instagram. So watch videos and engage with those. And if you have questions on my content or anything, I'm always happy to help and respond. Oh, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much. These are really, really helpful. Social media. Yes. My username on all social media is Kelly Riordan Musician. So Instagram, it's at Kelly Riordan Musician. TikTok, it's at Kelly Riordan Musician. Facebook, I'm at Kelly Riordan Musician. So that's how you can find me. I think the only one that's different is, I think it's different on LinkedIn. I think it's just Kelly Riordan. But yeah, you can find me there. You can also find our YouTube channel, our podcast, all that stuff too. So Chrissy, thanks so much. You always teach me something new. I'm so glad this was helpful, you guys. I am setting an intention for 2024 to do a lot more of these sessions because I genuinely love them. And we always get such positive feedback and they're so much fun. And it's just a different way for me to interact with everyone. So we will definitely be doing more of these. And if you have thoughts or ideas or requests on what a topic could be for the next one, feel free to send me an email or a DM on social media because I definitely want to get more feedback from you guys. So we're doing that organically. Love your microphone. Sounds great. Thank you. It's a Shure MV7 and I love it so much. I have two. All right, you guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again for being here. It was wonderful. I appreciate the questions. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.